Coming live from Ukraine is our guest this morning. Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Valeria Stavitska, entrepreneur and community builder. Welcome to the show, Valeria.
Welcome, everyone. So glad to be here.
Same here. Same here. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India. And obviously, this show is going to a lot of places right now, and a lot of people will also see and listen to it on podcast and understand more about business. But tell us, Valeria, to start with, how does it feel to be an entrepreneur and as well as a community builder at the age of 16?
I would say that it feels amazing. And it's actually, I started it all out of boredom. I'll be absolutely honest because I've been a straight A student for a really long while. I've been taking part in scientific competitions. I've been winning them all of the time. And so it got boring eventually. And that's why I realized that, well, I need to seek my passions and I need to actually fulfill my purpose that I see that I have. And so that's how it all started and how it all
Okay.
continues.
Okay, you make it sound very simple, but it is not so easy, and especially with the situation in Ukraine right now. In that backdrop, everybody would start to think about about uh, being in the right place, being safe, being just with the family, and try to see what actually the future lies. Amidst all these things, I don't think you have. It's been very long in terms of your entrepreneurship, but around 6 months or so. But whatever it has been, I'm sure you have added a lot of value to that, and you are building community. So both the fronts, just taking care of your schooling part and as well as taking care of the client's part. How do you do that? And then along with that, what do you mean by community building when you talk of that? Because this is such a good word, and if followed in the right perspective, it can actually change the world. So tell us about this. Two, three things at the same time. You are an expert, you are the master part today. So I'm sure you'll be able to put them together, and I ask them together so that you can answer them at your own pace.
All right, amazing. So first of all, I'm gonna start with that question of like, how do I manage school and like entrepreneurship and like Twitter at the same time and like everything in between. So I'm just a morning person. There is nothing, no wonders to it. I just wake up in the morning and I just start with basically 3 to 4 hours of like deep work. This is when I usually get everything done, like everything that I possibly can. And then I just go on with my day. Usually I have school till 4 p.m. Then probably I have some dinner. Not probably, I have some dinner. And then just here, I just insert some another deep work session afterwards. So it's all about actually just dedicating full focus to what you're doing in the moment. Like full attention to the task at like that you're doing basically, and that is how you get the most out of the time that you have and like you get the highest quality of work, I would say. And so the second question was about community building, right?
Right, right.
So a lot of people use it as a buzzword, like a lot of people, and a lot of people talk about it. Well, actually they do not mean community building at all. And so a lot of people have a false notion that community building is, for example, creating some Instagram page and then like gaining more followers or something like this. Well, it's not. Actually, community building, uh, I would say that it has been around here for a really long while, but it became even popular during the pandemic, so around 2020 when a lot of people were isolated and they just needed to find a group of like-minded people who they could talk about in some space. And so usually communities can be built practically on any platform. And almost every company has a community. For example, like Zoom has a community, Microsoft has a community, Electronic Arts, so and all of their games have a community. Notion has a community. Basically, every single company has a community. Not to mention creators who have various communities where they teach people their craft and people get the chance to hold each other accountable. So, and the platforms vary, absolutely vary, but those aren't social media. That's the most important distinguish.
Right, right, Valeria. Now to understand from you. Now you could have thought of anything else, but you thought of building communities, and not only building, but also teach others, and then also make a business out of this. How did this thing come into your mind? As I said, you have got already so many things in your mind at this age. You are the generation Z, if I may call it correctly. I don't know if I'm correct or not. This
Yes,
definition is
yes,
changing by the
yeah.
day. So, at this age, you, as you say, what's happening in your country right now in terms of the difficulties at that, and then you are just 16, you can think about building a life and having a good life. Normally people at this age do think about that. Then how did you think about all this value addition, not only to yourself and to your future, but also to the future of content creation? It's almost like that, and a lot of people. So what I want to understand, the motivation, the thought process, the mindset that you had just few months back to build up this whole thing for yourself and for others.
I see. So I quite remember, actually, it all starts, I guess, more like 2 years ago or so. And so 2 years ago, I just started programming. And so I was developing my own Android apps. I even had a GitHub. And so everything was good. I was even like learning some advanced algorithms. I can still code pretty much kind of well, kind of not. But I still have the skills. But I remember like how I made myself do this. So I wasn't actually quite passionate about, and I didn't even have anyone like who was interested in coding too as me. And so I was all alone all of that time, trying something on my own, learning on my own, just doing everything on my own. And so I can imagine though, if I were to meet some community of like coders, I think I would stick to it. But I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't meet such a group of people. And so I remember when it was February 24th, and so I woke up yet another day at 4 a.m. And so I sat here with my phone. I was again finding some bugs in my code, and I, by the way, was developing an app, a newsfeed app at that time. And so, as we all know, on February 24th, basically Russia invaded Ukraine. And so I was scrolling through the feed and I saw a BBC talking about how Russia invaded Ukraine. And I was like, no, that's not the truth. Like, why today? I'm like, no, like maybe I expected this to happen, but not today. And like, no. And so I continued basically doing what I was doing. And then it was 5:02 a.m., basically 5:02 a.m. And so I was sitting here still with my phone, but then I heard a loud, like really loud sound of like an engine. And so I turned my head, I looked at the window, and I saw a huge military airplane just flying past my windows. And it was so close. Maybe it was like 600 meters away or so. And so I was sitting here and I was just thinking like, okay, why do I do what I hate to do? Why can't I just do what I love to do? Basically, like I might die tomorrow. It's like actually, there's a high possibility of this, and I'm still doing what I hate to do. And so that was the question, like, why do I continue doing like something that I don't enjoy at all? And so then for the next 6 months, I was just out. I was just sitting here thinking about a bunch of different things and just everything. And so everything crashed because for the longest time I thought that I actually enjoy programming and it's actually really something that I like to do, but it's not. And so yeah, and in August I've met some people. So I went on Twitter absolutely randomly. And I've joined one Discord server. So right now it's closed. Then I've met some people inside of it, and then those people recommended me to join Utopia, which is another community by Wizaficom. It's an account on Twitter. And so that's how I started. And then I realized, well, I can actually build communities too, and I'm quite naturally good at it, and I've been doing it for a long while actually. And so I've been joining in several like Discord servers and something like this, and just I didn't realize that it was an actual thing. That's the whole point.
Right, right, Valeria. You know, a couple of things here. I I saw your video on your website,
Yeah.
and you sound so confident. You are so confident right now, talking live to the whole world.
Yes.
How, where do you get all this confidence from? I've seen many veterans also. I come from a television background, journalism background. There I see a lot of leaders and as confident as possible. But when they come in terms of in front of the world, many a times they also need some sort of training. And it is okay. Not everybody, I would not know much about business like they would not know much about television. So the world is trying to understand. How do you, where do you get all this confidence from? I saw that video and it looked not only very confident, but also very incisive, that you know what you know and that you can add value to people, to businesses, to brands. Otherwise, they will not pay. Why will they even talk to you? And it's like any other professional page. So obviously it is not something that you can just learn in one day. So how is it that you built up on that? How did you, what is the secret to all that confidence, all that focus, so that a lot of people, especially in your generation, can know about that life is not just about social media. Beyond that, second is that during your process, when uh, that thing happened that morning, when you saw this big plane flying by your window, is you came to think about doing something that you love and not doing something, wasting time that you
Yeah.
don't like so much. That realization, and that it can be an end to a life at any point in time. What would you like to tell again to the younger generation, especially about choosing things that they love and not later on realize that they wasted 10 years, 20 years in doing something that they did not want to do? And and that time it's a life of regret. So I want to understand that part before I ask more questions on the community building stuff.
Yeah, surely. Those are great questions, actually, Ajay. Thanks for asking them, because a lot of people actually ask them to me too, as well. And so I think if I answer all of them here, no one is gonna ask me, or if someone is gonna ask me that again, I'm just gonna show them this podcast, and that is it. Well, first of all, about confidence. Well, I'm actually since a really young age, from a really really young age, I'm just an extroverted extrovert, basically. So if you can find some more extroverted person than me, then I'm gonna give an award to that person. Because I would be that little kid, so I was 5 years old, and I would go to some quite tall and big guys, like who are, I don't know, around 18, 16, and I would just go to them and be like, hey, can we be friends? And just, I don't know, that is just the truth. That is who I am. And so I've never had problems with social interaction. I've also been on stage quite a lot of times, since, I'm kind of a prominent student in my school. And that's why they always invited me over some events. I've also been on several events in my city, and so I have no problems with like speaking in public and doing anything like this. Um, and also, I've been filming videos for a while, so it's not that hard for me. And another thing is that I understand a lot of people have an imposter syndrome. And so a lot of people think, well, I'm not an expert in this. How can I talk about this? And like, well, I've had those doubts for a while, both in programming. It's especially common in programming because a lot of programmers say something like, but there is a guy who works in Google, or there is a guy who hacked this huge database, and I know nothing. I know nothing about programming. No, well, it's not the truth, and you don't need to be some grand expert to teach others about something that you really like. So even if we take a basic example from the business world, you don't need to be Grant Cardone to teach people about business. That's simply not the case because a lot of people won't understand a thing from Grant Cardone, but they will relate more to the person who is, I don't know, doing $20,000 a month, basically, or who is having just a small family business, for example, but managing it successfully. And so the same way goes for community building. And also, I've realized that a lot of people are just talking about Web3 community building, for example, or they are talking about building on social media, actually, which is not the case. Like, I am talking about my own thing, and there aren't that many people who I can even look up to. Maybe I would say I can look up to Greg Eisenberg. He's doing a great job. He has been an advisor in Reddit, so obviously he has got a lot of experience. But there are people who can't relate to him. They can't relate to building something as huge as Reddit. So that's why I can just share my own insights. And I see myself not as an expert, but as a person who is kind of a few steps ahead of everyone else. And so it's even more efficient, I think, to kind of think this way and also teach the people who are just a few steps behind you. They understand you better and everything. So
Right.
that was the first question. And the second question about realizing purpose, passion, and everything like this. So I remember a while before, yes, so that was the question that I've been trying to answer. So, how do you find your passion? There are so many videos about this, there are so many self help books about this. And so, it seems like the whole world searches for a meaning and searches for passion and everything like this. I would say that actually there is no single way, and that is the truth. There is no single way to know what you're actually passionate about. You just need to try out and you just need to waste your time. And I would say that in case of choosing the college major, that might be hard. That might be actually hard. But I would say that you would much rather choose something hard and choose something that you don't enjoy, actually, as a college major. Because then you learn a lot, first of all, about yourself. And no one should like be afraid of choosing the wrong major, I would say. If you actually go for being an engineer, for example, you develop your logical thinking, you develop your discipline because you understand how like to make yourself work actually and how to sit down and just do the work, and that is it, how to focus. So there are actually a lot of benefits from studying harder subjects, for example. I would say that I am paying homage to my mom for making me study math from such a young age, even though I don't really like it. Even though, yeah, I have innate abilities in math, but I don't really like it. But I think there are tons of benefits when it comes to just doing what is hard. Just do what is hard. That is it. And if you want to find out your passion, well, I would say that if you imagine yourself on your deathbed and then you just realize that, like, when it's like your last moment and you regret about not doing this thing, not pursuing this thing, well, then something went wrong. Something absolutely went wrong. So I
Right,
think that is, yes, that is the main like criteria for
right.
me.
My mind tells me to get back to the business part of the discussion, but the real me wants to know more about the mind part of your of the entrepreneur. So I will stick to the mind part, because this is also related to how one can think from the heart and also think right at the same time. So I will ask for the young generation, especially, how exactly. So we'll try and put both the things together as we cruise along this discussion. So one thing is that, again, with such a brilliant mind, entrepreneur, community builder, how does the world catch up with you when you are interacting with them? Either it is your clients, either it is your schoolmates, and especially those people who are working with you. And they may be just like earlier on, you used to approach the older guys and say hello to them. How it can be that many of these people are much older in terms of age. So how does these interactions go? How do you get work from people who could be older than you? The clients, how do they deal with you? Tell us about that sort of a setting. How does it actually work on the ground when they connect with you first time?
Okay. So I guess I'll start first from classmates, then we'll just go up in age basically
Right.
eventually. So starting from my classmates, I've lost touch with them quite a long while ago, I'll be honest, because when I first started pursuing programming, and also, yeah, it's an important note here. We've been online schooling, so that's why I couldn't even meet them in person, and we kind of lost the touch even here. But like I've been just pursuing my own thing all of the time, and eventually I've realized how far we're like there's a huge distance between us because they are mostly what are they doing? They are scrolling TikTok, Instagram. They are not interested even in studying, and so I was that was all so weird to me. And so I couldn't understand that. It's like you must have at least something that you merely enjoy doing, apart from binge scrolling some social media feeds. And so that's when I've lost the touch with them. I still have a few friends in real life, but I'll be honest, I have way more friends in online than in the offline world. And so that is the first thing. Second thing would be clients. So how do I deal with clients? Well, that is simple. That is actually simple.
And how do they deal with you? That's also a question
Oh,
there.
how do they deal with me? Well, see, I'm talking to you right now.
Of course,
It's
of
like
course.
we've found one another, and so you've invited me. That's how I deal with clients in the same way. I post on my Twitter page. Well, that's how mostly people find me. If they enjoy my content, if they enjoy what I'm doing, if they are even like merely they can understand my viewpoint and our viewpoints align, well, here it go. We are aligned and we can move on together. That is simple. Uh Basically. Though I know how uneasy that is to hop on a call with someone who is two times older than you. In a good case. If it's a worser case, then they are three times older than you. And
Right.
so I understand that. I absolutely understand that. And a lot of people I've been talking to younger people like me, or even to people who are like 20 years old, and they all have this problem, but I would say that it comes from just volume. You just need to have enough calls with people who are older than you, and you need to have enough even like business calls to understand how you need to behave and like how you need to communicate and all of this. It all comes from volume eventually. You There is no single magic pill that you can swallow and just, oh, I'm so confident, so powerful, and like I'm ready to crush this world and I'm ready to talk to people who are way older than me. So
Right, right,
just just the truth.
right. That question, I will again, that thing about your colleagues, your people who work with you. But before that, Valeria, is that, you know, a lot of young generation people are in responsible positions, and even in terms of providing services to the clients. So, and especially in your case, you are quite young. So what do you do that clients value your time, value the interaction, and also find value that in the things that you are doing, so that they can trust to engage with you professionally? What would you like to tell them? What is your secret when you deal with people who are talking pure professional stuff, and it's about value addition to what they are doing? They are experienced people, they are experienced industry people, brands, entrepreneurs, bigger companies. So what is it that you do to make sure that it is all about business, and that you are serious about business, providing what you are committing to them, and even if you are just very young?
All right, so I have even like a video testimonial on my page from Dakota Robertson. I'm not sure that every single listener knows who he is, but he is also on Twitter. He has nearly 500,000 followers combined on all of the social media platforms. And so basically, I'm just citing his words, nothing else. I'm not adding anything. She's high quality, punctual, amazing service, and just everything like this. And so that tells you more than anything else. I'm
Right,
always on time. I'm always making sure that everything works, nothing falls apart, and just doing my best basically. I have a lot of discipline, and a lot of people don't have the discipline, and I can also interact with people perfectly. And so there were a lot of people from his cohort that he had who just commented under that video and tell that, well, yes, she crushed it with that cohort, we liked it so much, she organized everything perfectly, and like that tells me a lot more than just any of my own perspectives on myself. I would say. um but so it is what it is. That is basically who I am. Well, I can organize just a perfect place for people to communicate in. That's
right,
my ability.
right. You can organize a perfect place, a perfect community for people to communicate.
Yes.
Now let me ask you this one. You were always good at social interactions, but when it comes to social media, you say community is better, and that
Yes.
it is, because you can own your audience. And social media is not about owning the audience, but it's about renting an audience, and that it is not going to last in the longer run. And that community building will replace content creation, and community will win the battle in this content warfare. Help us understand what exactly this whole thing mean, because I it's an interesting time when we are having this discussion, when even the social media giants are looking for monetizing even the blue ticks,
Yeah.
tick mark. Earlier it was Twitter, now it's the Meta
No,
group of
meta, yeah.
yeah. So how do you explain to a common person who is just scrolling on his phone continuously?
Mm-hmm. So even right now, people might click off this video, people might stop listening to it, people might just tune off. Even on social media feed, you just open it and you see a bunch of people. And the like a separate content creator doesn't actually have full attention. Even with newsletters, well, they have your email. And so, in case of a ban, for example, on social media, which happens regularly, I'm telling you, I've been on Twitter for just 6 months, but I've been banned twice. And I didn't do anything wrong. I was just banned twice for nothing. So, and it happens to all of the people from all walks of life and from all different, like, amount of followers doesn't matter actually here. They might ban you at any time and for nothing, literally for nothing, for just posting good content. And so that is why I think it's absolutely not rewarding to build on social media. If you understand that at any time your account might get banned, and then what else? What's next? Okay, that's great if you have an email list. So you've got your own newsletter and you post something, but you don't actually even here, you don't fully own the attention of your people. And it's still one-way communication. So you just broadcast something to your audience, and that doesn't work that well. We're not wired to be just consuming information all of the time without giving feedback to somebody, for example. And so that is why communities are powerful, actually, because we get the chance to talk one to another and cross pollinate all of those ideas, share the insights, and like do it this 24/7 almost at any time, because communities and online they allow us to do this. And we're just social creatures. That is just our nature. We can't be sitting all day on social media scrolling through the feed and just consuming some content. That is not how we are wired. It is simply the truth.
Right, right. For a for the common audience, if they want to understand, they all know social media, they all know all the big name TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and even the new ones that are coming. But when you talk about community, it has different meaning to different people. So when how do you tell them the difference between the type of community that you are talking about and the social media that they use day in and day out? How would you like to tell them so that they understand better? Even for many businesses or brands, several of them have their own communities in their own manner. Then how is your community different than what they are doing? Where is it that it can be better? Help us understand this whole space so that we also can learn. Even I as a content creator can learn a bit of from this, and not fall just fall in bad times for doing nothing. As you said, you can get banned for doing nothing at all.
Yes. That is just the truth. That's simply the truth. And that's why what I say when I try to explain the difference between social media and communities. So that is pretty much straightforward. Social media is actually one-way communication of one creator to many people. So a bunch of people. So one to many. There's like this relationship between those two people. And you're actually acting more like a TV or just any media, basically, in this case. You're just sharing something with a lot of people. You get limited feedback. Even if you get it just in form of comments, and people can't talk one to another. But in a community, it's absolutely different. So you are no longer the spotlight, actually. Even if you share the content, well, you are not the spotlight. Definitely not. But people can come together and talk one to another specifically. So it's more of a chat between people who enjoy your content. If we're talking about content creators, if we're talking about brands, well, obviously, this is a chat between people who enjoy talking and using products from a certain brand, for example. So that is the main difference. And it explains everything, basically, that you need to know about communities. Um, it's so frustrating that a lot of people talk about building communities while they're actually just gathering followers on Instagram.
Right.
So distressful.
Indeed. Indeed. It is stressful. if you get thrown out by those systems for doing no mistake at all. And then it's all about likes, their likes, the algorithms likes, and
Exactly.
even the
Algorithms.
changing
Yes.
market dynamics. Changing market dynamics, as you can say, the blue ticks are getting, the blue tick mark, verification mark are getting
Yes.
sold, and it is at the cost of the privacy as well as the security, online security of the people who will not be able to pay. That's the things as of now we can understand. Let's see how all this pans out. Now, in terms of a community, uh, why do brands need a community? Is it that they should move away from social media and look at engaging in the in a way of community? And what about the general population who are using social media? For them, it's okay because they are not looking at it from a long-term point of view. But who then should go for building a community apart from brands? Who else will benefit to build a community rather than being too much on social media and adding to their follower list?
All right. So, actually, social media and communities should coexist. Why so? Because on social media, you can get the traffic. In community, you can capture and hold it, basically. And you can move it in whatever way you want to, basically. um and so that is why I think still we need social media, because where are we going to get that traffic from? Where are we going to get all of those people from? Still, eventually you channel people from social media to your community. So that is the first thing. Who is going to benefit from building a community? Well, basically everyone who has an initial audience, who has people who he or she can channel towards something. So those might be actually SaaS companies, those might be e-commerce brands, basically any brands that are giving something to their customers, and content creators, as I've said earlier. So content creators might build, for example, courses and a community. And so they might have a free and paid version of their own community, and then also channel people to their own course that they have. Since some people might not afford themselves a course, but if they, for example, implement some advice from the community itself, then they might just level up and eventually afford themselves a course, for example. So that is how it works usually. And then also they build the trust with the content creator. That is the most important part. Second, e-commerce brands. That is usually used for retention, just like in SaaS, by the way. So it's usually used in retention and customer loyalty, and also in customer support quite sometimes. Even for example, if you take Microsoft, they don't have that that a lot of customer support, that 24/7 chat. They have a forum where people can ask questions, and people who are already experts in using some Microsoft products, they can answer their questions. And so also it works in customer success. It even works in creating like user generated content, for example. So people who genuinely enjoy using the product, they will start sharing their use cases of that product in the community sooner or later, especially if they enjoy the community a lot. So it's all about people eventually. It's not about numbers, and we should stop playing numbers game.
Right. It's not about numbers, it's not about gaining attention, but it's about owning
Yes.
your audience. So how do a business or a content creator, say with 3,000, 5,000 followers on any particular platform, how do they start? What is the first step to do that? Do they open up what are the platforms that they can start with? How do you do that? Because that's a big thing for anybody to add to whatever they are doing. For a big company it might be easy because they can hire people, they already have a lot of people. But for individuals or smaller, very small businesses, how do they do that?
All right, so it all depends. I would say that for content creators, especially, it's also all dependent on demographics. So picking the right platform is the question of itself, and I'm actually thinking of making some sort of a guide on it, because people get stuck around it for a really long while.
Right.
But usually, if you're targeting the young demographics, so people of ages like basically any age to like 25 or something around this. So Gen Z basically and millennials. Then usually Discord works perfectly well, especially for creators. And so, for example, we have a content creator who has like 5,000 followers, and he or she wants to build a community so that just, for example, he or she has some backup plan, and also so that he or she can just get feedback from people. So how I did that, for example, so I've tried that myself. I also have a community. I keep it small on purpose. I keep it private, just secret, everything, so that there is as little people as possible. But they add so much value, so much value. They give me just some feedback on my content. We talk to one another. We help one another grow on Twitter, for example. And so how I did that, I basically built myself a Discord server, and I've already had quite some people who were good friends of mine. And so I've decided, okay, let me just tell them that, hey, you can join this group. And basically, there are going to be like not that many people. You're one of those first 10 people who I let in. So come in. Um, and that is how I did it. Then it didn't start that well. I'll be honest. It didn't start that well because I didn't have the time. People weren't that interested. And I realized that, well, maybe the purpose of the group should be different. Maybe I can change something. Maybe the why of the people isn't strong enough. So people should absolutely have the reason to join your community. It's important. And so I realized that, well, they didn't have the reason to engage in here and just talk and chat like nothing. They are quite busy, and they don't have that much time to invest. And I don't have a good enough reason to take their time. So, all right. Then I've decided that I'm gonna make a course. Course. Well, it's just basically my own Notion template. I've talked in it about how I gained 1,000 followers in 45 days without doing that much, like without almost doing anything. And then I've just shared it on Twitter. And so I did that, and I've put a link to my community inside of it. And some people have joined, and those people were the best. Why? Because this was a good filter. Those people who were interested in Twitter growth eventually joined my community if they wanted to. So you always need to filter out people. I would say that this is the most important step. And then if you filter out the people, well, then you don't need to care about like anything that much. For smaller businesses, well, a lot of people open the Facebook group, but I would say that it's not an optimal solution because Facebook doesn't show community posts that much. Algorithms are changing again, and so it's a social media
And
platform.
again, there also you can get thrown out because it is
Yeah.
linked to your main page.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I'm talking about. I usually joke about how if you build a Facebook group, it's like a Frankenstein. It's not actually a community, it's not actually social media, it's something like in between. Um and so here it might depend, absolutely depend where you build your platform. It might be even like some forum like vanilla. It's a good service for building forums. It might be Discord even. It might be any white label platform, so where you can build your own website, and this is going to be like your own community. Well, actually, it's built on some custom platform. Here you just need to understand, okay, do people actually come here to join their own insights, for example? Do they come here, for example, it might be even like a baby diaper brand, but you might bring together young moms so that they speak about struggles of being first time mom. It might be as simple as that. And if you want to build a community like that, well, people need to chat. They don't need a forum, they need to chat together. And so they need to share something. Because on forums, usually you need to ask a question and here comes the answer. And it's usually works better for customer support.
Right,
But here we're talking about like just
right,
human connections, basically.
right, right, Valeria. Then how many communities should one build? in one platform, or the same community again on different platforms? How should they go about it?
All right. So I usually advise to just, even if you have, for example, different people from different countries who use different languages, start first with an international community. And only then, if you see that it's quite successful, everything works quite well, then build the same community but for people in another language. That is it. That is simple. And you shouldn't also copy your community across different platforms unless you want, for example, a place for people to chat, and you also want to have a place for people to gain knowledge from you specifically. So there are content creators who have, for example, a Discord and Circle. On Circle, they have all of the information, like knowledge base, and on Discord, they have just a chat basically.
Right, right, Valeria. You you have actually given a lot of insight on this community building, uh, and why you should own your audience and not just depend on social media. So there is so much to still learn, and they can only learn when they connect with you and perhaps read about you, more on your web pages, on your social media. And so, how do people connect with you, know more about you? Tell a bit about your company, Helio Hype, and how do people connect with you on that? What they can expect? What is it the process is, so that people can make the best of you, so that it helps their brand, their businesses, as well as they are not dependent on any social media handle.
All right. So if you are kind of hesitant, or you just have any other question about community building, or you might just want to know me a bit more, then you can always, as of right now, I only have Twitter, but I'm planning to expand it on different platforms eventually. So you can find me at Heliohype, basically, or Heliohype. A lot of people pronounce it in different ways. You can find me here on Twitter at this basically at this place. And if you want to actually book a call with me, if you're planning to build a community yourself, if you need some consultation, then you can book a quick 15-minute call with me on my page, heliohype.com. You can also read a bit more about the process of building a community here, how I do this, how I helped others do this, and how that works basically, and whether you're a good fit for that or not. So
Right,
everything is
right,
here. Yes.
perfect. Now, Valeria, my last question to you is that you are an entrepreneur, a community builder, something a lot of people want to achieve at any stage in life. So you are already, crushing it, as you can say. A lot of people want to use it in their young age, young life, or killing it. Now, but you have a long life to live. So let's talk about living and not killing. Okay?
All
And
right.
as they say, a lot of people talk about YOLO. You only live once. And sometimes it can go in the wrong direction. You are living a fruitful one life that you have. But as I said, you are very young and there is so much to go, so much to achieve. What is it that you want to achieve for yourself? Because God has given a great head on your shoulders at this very young age. I'm sure you will bring a lot of difference to this world in whatever you do.
Oh, well, I've been thinking about this. I would actually say that I didn't even expect that I would be right here at this like time, at this place, sitting here and thinking about those thoughts and doing what I'm doing. So I didn't expect that. And I realized that, well, if I really want to, I can't plan out my life. It's just, and also I've heard somewhere some studies that Gen Z people are gonna change 7 professions in their lifetime. So if the average life expectancy is something like 70 years. People usually start studying at 18, so 70 minus 18 is going to be like 52, and then 52 divided by 7. It's like 7.5 years or something like this. So every 7.5 years, people are gonna change their profession. And also, we need to detract the like the amount of time that you spend on retirement, and also in university, because usually people go to universities. So that turns out that we're actually gonna change professions every 6 years or something like this. And I realized that, well, I can plan it out. But what I know absolutely for sure, it is that I've been thinking about creating my own startup for a really long while. And I probably still want to get back into tech, but maybe not programming, but something different. But I want to make the difference, definitely. So I would create a startup. I'm sure about this.
Wonderful. You certainly will create a difference. Valeria, you are creating difference now, because when you saw that plane zooming by, that big plane zooming by your window,
Yeah.
you could very much understand that life is very fragile and any moment can be our last moment on this earth. And one gains that wisdom, and especially in your case at such an early age, I am sure they know what they know to do with their life, as you are doing right now. On this positive note, the wrap on this very special edition
Yes.
of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, Ajay. That was wonderful.
You are welcome.